Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Thick Thoughts, do you need some audio while you're working out and you just don't have enough thick thoughts in your life? Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/thickthoughts. Help support our podcast and keep the lights up and running. Keep us funded with cheesy Fiesta potatoes, you know. Welcome to the Thick Thoughts podcast. I'm Sarah. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Ellie, over there.
Hi. What's up?
And today we are with the eloquent, dapper, and resounding Edwin, aka the VSG-Struggle.
Hey.
What up?
Hi.
What's going on? Thanks for having me. Long time listener, first time caller.
That's a first. I like that. That's a good line. Thank you for agreeing to talk to us on the record. Because, you know, whatever. So I don't know so do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Do you come here often type of thing?
Yeah. I'm one of those, what's a place like you doing a girl like this kind of thing. I'm going to be approaching 3 years in May that I've had weight loss surgery, had the VSG surgery, obviously. 33. I don't know. I don't really take things that I see or that I hear or that I put on Facebook or on Instagram too seriously. So I'm just a pretty open-minded and laid-back kind of a person. Anybody can talk to me about just about anything. So whatever you've got for me, I can handle.
So you said you're about you had which kind of surgery did you have? I'm guessing by your Instagram name, it may be the sleeve.
Yep, it's the sleeve. Yep.
So you used to be fat, right? The cool kids, all the cool kids. You want to tell us a little?
I like to say I used to be fatter. Yeah, I used to be fatter.
Yeah. That's whatever politically correct way, whatever. Right. But so do you want to tell us a little bit how you grow up? Have you always been fat-er?
Yeah, so I've been heavy all my life. Even, if you were to look at a picture of me on the T-ball team when I was in kindergarten, I'm 1.5 feet taller than everybody else and about 1 foot wider than everybody else. And so it's just kind of something I grew up with. I was a big baby, and my parents were both heavier, so naturally I think I just kind of had that gene in me. But, all the way through, when you're a little kid, big is big and it's whatever. But right around 4th grade, I think, is when I started to know that I was fat and it had a negative stereotype with those around me. So, I kind of just dealt with the same kind of social pressures that any young kid who's overweight in middle and high school and college goes through. But a lot of times I used it to my advantage, mostly on the football field. But other than that, I was really just a gentle giant. I actually got bullied a lot and pushed around a lot because I was too afraid to stand up for myself and that I was going to hurt somebody because I was so much bigger than everybody else. So it's kind of funny because now, as a 30-something-year-old adult, I weigh now what I weighed in middle school. So that always makes me laugh because I have that record from my from when we'd have the weigh-ins in the football programs and stuff. I think the weight that I'm at now when I was in 7th grade.
Wow.
So it makes me laugh. But so I've been heavy on. I never stopped me. My dating life, my love life, my work life, none of that ever was really affected by it. I've certainly done some things and been to places that I never thought that I would, that I, never, when I look back on it now, I didn't really see that weight affected that. But now that I've lost the weight and I'm doing some of those things again for the first time, I really do see just kind of where my brain's been and where it was and where it's at now and stuff, and realize that weight really did affect it. I just didn't let it bother me, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like I can relate to a lot of that. Like there's a time when I was a lot heavier that I tried to like train to run a 5K, and I was able to, but it's just like, everything is just, you don't realize how hard it is until it's not as hard anymore. At least that was my experience, or that has been my experience.
Right. Yeah. And I honestly, in our area, I live in, I'm in Western New York near Buffalo, but my town in particular is very rural, and there's a very rural mentality that goes along with it. So in our area, for years of me growing up through middle school, high school, that's when, weight loss surgery started to become a thing for people. And it was always just at that time, gastric bypass. So my mom and my dad both being heavier and, divorced, so in their own opinions and in their own conversations, would always make jokes about people who had gastric bypass surgery and that they're cheaters and they're this and they're that. So I had that mentality for a very long time. When I went to college, when I went to my 4-year college, the girl that I was dating was much heavier than even I was. And her mom and dad were very wealthy, so they paid for her to have the band put on. So at the time, I was like, oh, that's cheating. Why don't you just work out? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And before I was really even educated on the whole thing myself. And then she kind of educated me about it, told me about the difference, why it's, there's different options now, why it just doesn't mean that you're cheating and you want an easy, quick fix and this, that, and the other thing. And I kind of learned through her, what that meant. And then, we went our separate ways after we graduated. And I still, though, kind of had that mentality in me. And it wasn't until, I was faced with being pre-diabetic. I had high blood pressure most of my life. I had sleep apnea most of my adult life. Got the CPAP in somewhere like 2009 or so. And didn't really bother me. Like I said, it didn't really affect my life too much. Anybody that I had sleep over who I was dating, they would just make jokes about me snoring, but it never really affected them to sleep. So it wasn't a huge deal. But once I was faced with the pre-diabetes thing, that's when I really took it seriously, went and talked to the doctor and decided that surgery was right for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And did you I know that preconceived notions about weight loss surgery, especially I think it's because I think everyone, because it's a relatively new, not new anymore, but it's a relatively newer solution, that doctors are exploring for obesity and stuff. I think it's normal to have preconceived notions and even make judgments if you're not fully informed yourself. I know that before, for a long time, I was just paralyzed by the fear that people were going to judge me if I ended up deciding to have weight loss surgery.
Same.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Same. Especially when you have a lot of larger friends and all of them have such a stigma against it too. You don't want to be that one person that bends into their stigma or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's how I felt about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think too, I have a family member who had weight loss surgery, and I have another family member who's always been overweight, but has always felt competitive with this other family member who had weight loss surgery. So this family member was, you know what? She had it, but I'm going to do it without it. I'm going to show her. And it's who are you showing? My thing is this is not the struggle Olympics. You don't win a medal for struggling for weight loss, more than the other person. That's not how it works.
Yeah, but I find it funny that even I used to do that too. I don't know, whatever. I mean, it's just a stigma that everybody has. It's unless you're fully I guess, versed in weight loss surgery and what it actually means, and you're gonna always have those kinds of stigmas attached to it because it's just all about education, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So, Edwin, do you mind us using, by the way, Elliot, do you mind us using your real name or no?
Yeah, I don't care. You can call. I mean, if you want to make up a name for me, that's cool too.
I mean, I don't know. You're still technically a secret receiver, right? So.
No, not anymore. No, but
okay.
you can call me that if you feel like it.
Okay.
We can call him anything we want. We just can't call him late for dinner.
Yes. Yep. True.
What?
True.
You've never heard that?
No.
You've never heard that?
Is that a New York saying?
Is that like a weird fucking Northeastern saying or something? Like, I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, I think it's, it's a person that likes to eat thing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not from these parts around here. I don't know American.
You can call me anything you want. Just don't tell me to go get butter after WEG closed.
What?
That's what I was saying. I just made that up because he's from Western New York and WEG.
Yeah. First of all, Wegmans is open 24 hours.
I have Wegmans here. No, I have Waggles.
You would know.
You don't. Don't put respect on the name,
Wawa.
Ellie.
Okay, we have Wawa here. All right.
You'd know if you had Wegmans there.
Yeah, you would know.
So
this is
Edwin.
Hi, how are you? Coming up to your VSG surgery and stuff and having your consultation with your doctor, was there anything that was going through your head, sort of like preconceived notions? Because I know that you just, you mentioned that you had a lifetime of people just kind of dissing the surgery in a sense. But was there anything that was going through your head, like stigma? Because you are a man and men go through a lot of different things that women do. So is there anything that sort of was, because you were also a secret sleever, so I can't necessarily say, did you tell your friends and did they say anything? But was there anything kind of like that?
So yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing that I thought going into it, because I went to the very first consultation meeting as like a group meeting with a bunch of other people. And I went to the meeting, and my biggest first thought, and the thing that I think I reflect on the most about the whole thing, is that when I was sitting in that room with, I think there was about 10 people in there, they were all women. They were all probably somewhere between 40 and 60, which was a very different crowd for me to be with. And I was a very young man in the room by myself. The questions that they were asking the doctor, I think it wasn't the doctor, it was the PA and the nutritionist at the time doing the presentation. And the doctor came in and said his hello in his accent for about 5 minutes and then beelined it out of there. So my biggest thing at the time was like, this isn't for me. This isn't for people. This isn't for men. This isn't for, just a young person in general. What am I doing here? Because there was even, and I shit you not, can I swear? Am I allowed to swear in this podcast?
You are 100% allowed to swear.
All right, sweet. So I shit you not, I was sitting there and there was a woman who was probably, it's hard to exactly age she was, but if I had to guess, I would say she was in her 40s. Extremely overweight, like everybody in the room was. But she was sitting there in the front row and had a 2-liter of Mountain Dew with her for the meeting.
What?
So I'm thinking in my head, I'm in the wrong room. This isn't for me. This is for people who have just have absolutely no other way to turn. I honestly backed out. I waited another month. I didn't go to the next one because I really was in my own head about it. I'm like, the people in that room are just massive overeaters. They just eat junk food and garbage all day long. And that really wasn't me. I didn't really overeat. My problem was internally with my metabolism. Right. So, I'm thinking I got to come up with another option. I got to come up with something else. So went to, told them, I said, I don't know if this is for me. And I started to get cold feet about it. Took a month off, didn't go to the very first doctor weigh-in like I was supposed to, put it off. And then I kind of got warmed back up to the whole idea. Went the next month, did my weigh-in just to see where I was. And that's where it all kind of started. You know, I told him, I was upfront with him. I said, I made a mention of the woman that had the 2-liter Mountain Dew. And this wasn't even sugar-free Mountain Dew. This was like battery acid, regular Mountain Dew. And here's this lady sitting in front of a PA and a nutritionist in a weight loss surgery bariatric center. And that was what in her mind was okay to bring to drink. And
My
I just
thing is,
really
like, just pretend to have it together for like an hour.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And so I'm thinking at that time, I'm like, there's got to be some other mental things going on in this room with these people. You know, I'm just not there. So that's what another thing that led to the cold feet and stuff. But, you know, I went and did it and started doing the weigh-ins and all that stuff. And I really, in my mind, I thought, I'm like, I'm not actually going to have surgery. I'm either going to back out or I'm going to follow this doctor supervised diet to a T, and I'm going to lose the weight this way. That way I don't need to have surgery. And I did. I followed it to a T. That was about when I made my Instagram page, I think. And if you go back and look, you know, I was making food. I was making healthier food. I wasn't posting a picture of my face back then. I was just mostly following people, learning about it, seeing what everyone else was doing who was on Instagram at that time. And 6 months later, after following that diet to a T, I think I broke down once on Super Bowl Sunday. Had a little too much Rotel dip. But other than that, I followed it to a T, and I lost in 6 months eating next to nothing and pounding water and doing all the things that they told me to do. I had lost like 8 pounds and went into the doctor's office after that 6th month. And the nutritionist, I think is who I met with at that time, she said, you should have lost, the average person doing this diet would have lost like 25 pounds. You know, their computer tells them these averages, would have lost like 25 pounds. You lost 8. So that means your metabolism is this when it should be this, and threw all kinds of, you know, facts and, you know, crap at me. And basically she goes, you can either have the surgery like you've gone through this process for, or you can keep doing this and try and hope that you'll lose more and hope that your metabolism hasn't just leveled out at this.
I mean,
and I was like, you know what?
That's not really encouraging, you know?
Yeah, I know. It was honestly, I had my own with the delivery of some of the messages and who delivered them, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Right. But you know, I was like, you know what? There's some truth to that, so I'm going to do it. So they put in the request to my insurance company to do the surgery, and they're like, oh, you know, it takes up to 2 weeks for your insurance company to get back to us, and then we'll call you to schedule a date. So it'll be, you know, you can anticipate a phone call, or you can anticipate a start date for your 8-day diet about a month from now. So I'm like, oh, sweet, you know, it's cool, whatever. So this was a week before my birthday, and a couple days go by, and I'm making plans to go out with my then significant other for my birthday. And, you know, I was like, we're going to Olive Garden because I'm going to destroy breadstick after breadstick, because I'm probably not going to be able to have bread. I'm not going to be able to have bread for a long time. So we're doing it. So literally on our way to Olive Garden, I get a phone call from the doctor's office in Erie, Pennsylvania. And they're like, so your approval already came through, and we have an opening that just opened up because someone backed out of surgery, and it's this date. And so you need to start your diet tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So I said, yeah, I'll take it. And, you know, I just kind of said yes to get them off the phone. And hung the phone up, and she goes, who was that? And I said, it was the doctor's office. They can take me on the 23rd, and I have to start my diet tomorrow. And she's like, why do you have to start your diet tomorrow if you're not till the 23rd? I thought it was 8 days. I go, yeah, you're right. So I call back and I go, yeah, there must have been some mistake. You sure these dates are right? And they're like, oh, well, you actually have to do it for 14 days because you're so heavy. It's like, oh,
Fuck.
super.
Oh my God.
Super. So I had 14 days of freaking, what is it? What's the
Liquid?
power?
The liquid.
Yeah, the protein. Isopure
Oh.
and Isotech and protein drink. And that was it for freaking 2 weeks straight. And yeah, went through it on May 23rd, 2016, and down 124-ish. I say ish because it just depends on what I've eaten that day, but 124-ish. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been life-saving for sure, because where I was going, I don't even want to think about, but it's had its ups and downs since then, for sure.
I'm sure you feel like a hell of a lot better.
I do. And, yeah, it's been life-changing. It's been life-changing in ways I never thought that it would. Things I cared about then, I don't give a shit about now. Things I didn't care about then, I really care a lot about now. And
like what?
Really just,
like what are things that have like switched either way?
So long-term planning. So a lot of people think weight loss surgery, oh, that means you're healthier. That means you can fit into different clothes. That means you can ride on an airplane and not need an extra seatbelt and all that type of stuff. But it also changes you mentally, which you both know, and everybody who's listening to this probably knows. It changes other things too. And for me, it was, this is a second chance to live a better life, to live a healthier life. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm protecting that life? So I started taking my savings account more seriously. I started taking my personal time and my vacation time more seriously, so that I could enjoy that time now. And I wasn't just at the mercy of someone else and what they wanted to do and my weight and stuff like that. The way that people talk to me, the way that I'm treated in social settings, the way that I'm treated by my partner, the way that I'm treated by my friends, my work, my coworkers, all that stuff changed, because all of a sudden, the jolly fat guy that was down for whatever is now still down for whatever, but is not going to let you talk shit about him. He's not going to let you take advantage of him anymore or roll him over. So I started standing up for myself more. I lost some friends, but I gained I gained respect of a lot of other people when I started doing that. So that's changed also. And yeah, it's been, and I'm still getting used to it. Every day is different. I'll be 3 years out in May, but I'm still experiencing new things for the first time. And it's nothing that I'm unhappy, to put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to touch on what you were saying, like, people don't notice how much, like, your confidence, I guess, is what you're trying to refer to when you say that you, like, don't let people walk all over you anymore. But, like, I wasn't, like, I personally, and I'm pretty sure Sarah can say this too, like, we, like, going through this whole thing, like, you're not really aware that, like, your confidence is going to be completely different, and you're going to have a bigger sense of self-worth than you have from before, because like you said, you are the bigger friend, so I guess you got to do what everybody else wants to do so that they don't sit there and judge you for being the bigger friend, So at least for me, I think I can agree with that.
Yeah, I think also something that I think that I didn't take as much stock into was like my identity change is like I no longer am like, in some ways I took pride in like being like a beautiful, big, beautiful woman, like, and, now I'm a less big, but still just a beautiful woman. And like, I feel, I don't know. I think we've talked about this before. Like, in some ways, like when I see someone who is like fat, like I want to like let them know that I'm still on their team. Right. On the fat person team, like, I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but like, if I see someone who's fat, who's like uncomfortable or like shopping or something, like I just want to like have a tattoo on my forehead that says like, I am a former fatty, like I understand, or something. And I think in some ways, like since having surgery and losing weight, like you still like, I still want to be that, like I still feel like on the inside I'm like the fat friend. Physically, I look different and stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to that. It's funny that you say that because totally get it.
Do you think you talk about like being treated differently? I guess I've heard a lot of women talk about being treated differently, like I don't know, by like customer service people and stuff like that. Can you think of like examples since you've lost weight of like how you have been treated like completely different now versus at a higher weight?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's two different ways to look at it. The first one is that there are people who I've known all my life who now would treat me different because they know that I've lost weight. But then there are also people who I've interacted with who have only met me and have only known me since I've lost weight. So they don't know how heavy I was, how I used to be, and what my personality used to be. So I have this weird kind of environment that I'm always navigating through on any given day, because there are different instances that pop up like that. For one example is there's and I actually think that I either made an Instagram post about this or I made a story about this. Just went on a complete rant about this girl who I had, I'd been into when I was younger, and would not give me the time of day because I feel, and I still believe this, that it was because I was heavier. And, back then, if I had said that, she'd have denied it and then have been like, no, it's just, I don't think that we're a good match and we're at different points in our life. And whatever you can come up with when you don't want to tell someone you're not interested in them because they're fat. I digress. So I lost all this weight, and now all of a sudden, and, with her, it's one kid and a divorce later, she sees me out at Wegmans. See, Wegmans is freaking where all the magic happens there.
Oh, yeah.
She sees me out at the store and comes up to me and is like, oh, my God, you look so great. I haven't seen you in so long. How are things? What are you up to? Yada, yada. And then starts leading into, we should go get a drink sometime. Why don't we go out to dinner? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because here's this person who would not, and I kid you not, would not even have humored the idea of going out with a heavy me. Now all of a sudden, I weigh 120 plus pounds and a new job, and 5 to 10 years later, you're all of a sudden interested again. Granted, I understand that people can grow, people can change their opinions, and can, certainly in that amount of time from, early 20s to early 30s, come to some level of maturity and, get, your priorities straight whenever. But that was not going to happen. And on the flip side of that, there are people who I've met, like I said, since I've had surgery, who don't know big me. And to kind of go back to your point about having the identity of being the big guy, that's who I was. And so I've made jokes about it out, when I'm out drinking with my coworkers and stuff, and I'll say, there's not enough room for me to sit there. Can you move a chair over? And people look at me like I'm crazy because I think I can't fit in that spot, because I'm used to being the big guy, and I'm used to being the dominant presence in a group of people, even though I wanted the least amount of attention as possible because I didn't want people to recognize me for being the big guy. That's what I grew accustomed to. So now, I know people, guys at the bar who bump into me aren't intimidated as much by me. They, people who are paying attention to me now for, attraction reasons. I sometimes don't even see it because I think in my head, there's no way this person is going to be interested in me because I'm so heavy. And then someone else will bring it to my attention that, no, that's not the case. You're not heavy, and they're definitely interested. It's wild. It's wild for sure. But
yeah. Do you think you receive different treatment from like for me, I think the biggest people who know me, I think, I don't know if like my family and like my friends treat me any differently, but I think the thing that I notice the most is like my customer service is like so much better now. Do you think that you get treated better by like employees at stores trying to like help you?
Not so much. Yeah, not so much. I don't think by employees at stores. I mean, because I am still, a large hairy man. I'm still 6'4". I'm still 6'4". I've got facial hair. Hair. I'm just a big hairy guy, and so I think that I'm not like one of these weight loss surgery guys that went from 60 to 0 and lost all that weight and then gained it all in muscle and is just all into that stuff now, because I'm not, I don't think that I'm physically attractive in that way, so I don't get that type of treatment. But I would say in the business community where I work and where I do business, people I think do treat me differently now. I've been asked to join and I can't, it's hard to say because so much happened in this past 3 years. And I think I got this new job that I have right now. I've had it for a little over 2 years now. I would never have even applied for that job had I not had surgery, because I just would not have had the confidence in myself to do it. So I got the job. And so now it's hard to say whether or not it's the status with the job, or if it's that these people who I've been interacting with for years in the business community are responding to the fact that I look different and that I act different. I'm not entirely sure. I like to think that it's because of, that I've proven myself when it comes to work, and that it's not because they think that I'm better to look at now than I used to be, but you never really know.
I don't think it would be necessarily that. I think it would be the confidence level, because you can see, like, I don't know. I feel like because I was heavier, I was always very shy, and I was always like, don't look at me, don't do anything, but always acknowledge my work. But then when I realized that as soon as I was more present in front of them, because I had more confidence to do so, they like responded differently to me. So that could be possibly it. I mean, I'm trying to give the people the benefit of the doubt, because I don't think people are shitty, but they're not that shitty. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's probably also just like some combination, because like I don't think most people like intentionally treat bigger people differently. I think it's like a subtle, like unconscious way you treat bigger people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think most people are that shitty. I mean, there's some people, but not most people. I guess that's my, I don't know.
Yeah. Some people don't even realize how they do respond. Like, other people don't realize how they respond differently to heavier people versus not. And because I've pointed it out to some of those people who I've mentioned who now treat me different than they used to. I mean, like I said before, I'll talk to anybody about just about anything. And I will also say just about anything to just about anybody. And some of those people I have said, where's all this coming from? You never really talked to me like this much before. You never really talked to me about this before. So, what's changed? Is it because I look different? Am I not taking up enough of your personal space for you to back off?
Oh!
So yeah, it's funny. I like to have fun with it too, just to see how red and embarrassed and awkward I can make situations. It's good. Especially when I've been drinking.
You're one of those.
I can be.
So do you want to? You don't have to talk about this, but do you want to talk about, like, because you were a secret sleever, like, do you want to talk about? And I think there's a lot of people who are secret sleevers, and there's like, that's a choice that everyone has to make. Do you want to talk about like your choice to be a secret sleever, and like what brought you to that choice, and now it sounds like you are less of a secret sleever or whatever? Like, talk about your journey with that.
Actually, wait before you start, let me explain exactly what secret sleever is for people that don't know. It's when you literally have your surgery without telling pretty much anybody, but like the bare minimum amount of people. So now you can continue. Sorry.
No, it's good catch. So, I told you about going through the doctor's offices and the doctor's visits and all that stuff. So when the phone call came and they said, oh yeah, you have cancellation and you've got to start your diet tomorrow. I still went through with the original plan and destroyed at least a dozen breadsticks on top of my meal that I had.
As one should. As one should.
But, you know, I'm like, I'm going out with a bang right now. This is it. You know, because originally that was to be the last supper. And I'm doing air quotes right now. But up to that point, with my significant other at the time, I would make jokes about, oh, what are we going to do for my last supper? As if I was Jesus and I was going to be crucified soon. And so we would make jokes about it. And so we're sitting there and I'm like, well, you know, I'm really looking forward to Olive Garden. I didn't want that to be my last supper, but I think it's going to happen. So it happened. It happened. And so, you know, I go through the whole thing. And that 2 weeks where I was doing the liquid diet gave me some time to think about it, because no one at that point knew that except her, that I was doing the doctor's appointments and all that stuff. I knew that I had to tell my boss because I was going to be gone for about 2 weeks' time. And I didn't have that much vacation time at that point. So I knew I had to tell him. But basically what the plan originally was that I was just going to get through the diet, the 2 weeks, surgery, and recovery. And then when I went back to work, then I would start to tell people. Because what I didn't want was anybody in that time when I already knew my confidence was going to be shaken on the whole thing. I already knew it was going to be stressful from switching from carbo loading to keto within 3 days. You know, I knew that I was going to be emotionally taxed from the whole thing. So I didn't want my parents or my friends to second guess it and put that doubt in my head and have that be the thing that I had to worry about before I went under the robot, I should say.
Yeah. So, which, to be honest, that's something I would suggest to anyone, like whether you want to be a secret sleeper or not, because I felt like I didn't want to broadcast it to the world until it was over, so no one could change my mind, because I could have been easily influenced.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I didn't tell my family. Like, I told my parents, but because they were there with me, but I didn't tell like my cousins that I'm very close with. I didn't tell them until I was like literally being sedated to go in.
Yeah, I agree with that, because people want you to believe, and you know, you have your circle of friends because that's your tribe and you generally think the same way about things. You will have people who want to convince you to see their side, and their side, especially if they're thinner, is not always what's right for you. You know, if they're like thinner, I've never had a weight problem like some of my friends did. If I had at that point said, I'm going to have weight loss surgery, they would have tried to talk me out of it. They'd have tried to put me on whatever diet had worked for them when they were, you know, never.
Or they would have said like, oh, you're not that fat or whatever. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So that was the plan, was that I was just not going to tell anybody until I absolutely needed to. And then slowly I would start telling people. And so I did surgery. I did the surgery. The only people at that time who knew were my significant other, my boss, because he actually was really cool about it and let me use my sick time instead of using my vacation time for it. So I was really appreciative of that, because he didn't have to do that based on our employee handbook, but he did. So he knew, because I was going to be missing work. And then there was a friend of mine who used to be in the weight loss community on Instagram, sort of, is no longer really active in there. And she had surgery, and she was one of the ones that I would ask a bunch of questions of. You know, we would meet for lunch sometimes, and I would just watch her eat, because I was so into the whole thing and learning about it and stuff. And we would talk about it, and she would talk to me about her journey and whatever. So she also is the one that knew. So there were 3 people who knew that I was doing it. My own parents didn't know. My brother didn't know. My best friends didn't know. When I went back to work on that first Monday after I'd had surgery, I think it was like the first week of June or something like that. You know, you do that 8 to 8-day to 2-week diet of the liquid diet, and you drop weight quickly because your body's just, eating all the fat. So just from that alone, surgery stuff, and then the 2 weeks following when I was, walking from sun up to sundown every day, I dropped I think I dropped about, I want to say 18 pounds on the liquid diet. And then I lost another 20 maybe before I went back to work. And so that's for a normal person, that's a huge chunk of weight. And so when I went back to work that Monday, I was walking downtown on my lunch break, and someone said to me, "Oh, you look great. Have you been losing weight? You look totally different." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to eat right," because this was literally the first interaction with somebody that's not my doctor, that's not my significant other, and it's not my dog, who are mentioning it and bringing it up. Because my boss knew, so he didn't say anything about it, and my coworkers just weren't around that day. So this person was the first person. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been just eating different, and I've been walking, so I'm doing out right now." And I pointed to my Fitbit, and this person literally said, and this is probably one of the reasons why I hate this person to this day. They go, "Oh well, at least you're doing it right. At least you're doing it the right way." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And this is also, mind you, this is a big guy. He was big like me. He was about the same weight as me and still is, huge and full beard, total fucking idiot. And so he says, at least you're doing it the right way." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, you're out here exercising and you're eating, go have surgery or take a pill." And I was like, fuck. So now I can't.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say, literally the first day back out in the human world, not in a park. And this is the conversation that took place. So I clammed up. I was like, "Yeah, you're right with that." And from that point on, I'm like, I can't. How am I going to go and tell people if this is what they think? If this is the opinion that all these people I interact with the most are having about it, I'm not going to go be a hypocrite and go against what they think. And because at that point, I was still so invested in what people thought of me, and took that and had a lot of weight on me, basically, that I didn't need to carry. So I just kept it to myself. Anybody that asked, I would just tell them, I'm just eating different, exercising, getting my steps in. I mentioned the keto thing. I think I was trying to keep it under 50 carbs at the time. And so basically every time then from that point on, I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want them to think poorly of me. So I just kept it to myself. I just clammed up and didn't tell anybody. And when someone would say, "How'd you do it? I wish I could lose that kind of weight. I wish, and then they'd pat their stomach. And meanwhile, the people patting their stomach saying they wish they could lose weight is the weight that I want to get to. And that's why I made that post the other day. Anybody who's listening to this can go back and look. I made a post about just a PSA. Don't talk shit about the weight that you're at now or the weight that you used to be, because that might be where someone is trying to get to in this journey, because everybody starts at different weights and different points in their life. So that was part of it, because people were making me feel crappy about losing weight, which is bizarre. But
what's kind of sad, actually, from what you just said, like you said that you didn't want to disappoint anybody because you had surgery. That's not a disappointment. That should I hate that people have this I guess preconceived notion that because you had surgery, it's a negative. It's not. It's a huge fucking decition, a huge one.
Or that being fat means bad.
Yeah.
It's like fat means unhealthy, but that doesn't mean you're not a trash person just because you're heavy. And that's how I felt. I cared a lot about what people thought. I still do, just not about that anymore. Now that I've lifted that weight off my shoulders, but I just clammed up, didn't want to talk about it. The last thing. I grew up trying to avoid weight discussions because I was heavy. And then I transitioned to trying desperately to avoid weight discussions because I was losing weight. And that just kept a snowball effect for a while. And a couple people I would let know here and there. One of my close friends who saw me every day, and he has a small cafe restaurant in where I live. And I was going to his place all the time beforehand. And when I stopped showing up, and he's asking me, well, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a while. Are you all right? I went and talked to him, and I said, here's the thing. I had surgery. I can't eat this stuff right now. When I do come back, I'm not going to be able to eat a lot of it. And he was really cool about it, because he said, we'll make you something, we'll customize something if we need to, and we'll help you out. So that was one of the first people. Friend.
I know.
He really is a cool guy. And so that helped, but it didn't help my case when it came to other people. So I just kept the lie going, and my own parents didn't know. They suspected it. My dad at the time was going through a nursing program, and so he probably could see the warning signs, either that or I was terminally ill. And I was still showing up. I was still showing up to family things, just not eating. So obviously it was not that. So, but my mom, just took my word for it that I was losing weight, doing the keto thing, whatever. And I didn't end up telling them until last February. So I was at that point, a year and 8 months post-op, until I told my parents. I asked them if they would meet me for dinner to talk about, I said I had to talk to them about something. So they're both like freaked out and paranoid, because, they didn't know what to expect, and told them over dinner. And, I told my other best friend about a year post-op, during his birthday party. It was a little over a year post-op. So July 2017. And he was really cool about it. To this day, he actually asked me a lot of questions, and because he's one of those people who I mentioned before, who had a lot of stereotypes in his mind about what it meant for someone to have surgery, and still to this day does. And when he sees someone posting about it on Facebook or whatever, he'll message me and ask me for my take, and ask me for my point of view on it before he forms an opinion, because he wants to learn about, the things that person is not going to tell him, basically. So I've helped educate him on it, I think, and he's a better person for it, I'd like to think. So yeah, it's been wild, but for the most part now, I guess going back to the secret sleever thing, I kept the lie up for a while, even after I told my parents. When I told my parents, I thought, all right, this is going to be the catalyst. This is going to be the tipping point where I change things and start telling everybody. And even at that point, I stopped telling people openly. But what kind of brought it to a head and made me just go for it is that the person who I was seeing, which I had mentioned to you prior to this, the person that I was seeing started to not look at it so favorably anymore. And while I'm in a room full of people, maybe, and I'm saying, they're asking me, oh, how'd you lose weight? What'd you do? You've lost so much. You look so different. And I'm telling them this, the same company line. I did not realize that she had actually already told them all that I had surgery, or told certain people. So
I'm so sorry that
I realize that it's shitty, but I can't exactly fault her for it, because I realized that she was also going through a lot that I didn't anticipate. I didn't think how much me changing was going to change her life also. And it really did. It threw her for a loop, because you rely on food as a social thing. You rely on it for your relationships sometimes. And so when I started changing what I was interested in, food wasn't number one on my list. I didn't realize how it was going to affect someone else besides just me. So
yeah, I don't think.
Shitty.
Oh yeah, I don't think you don't realize like how much of like socialization and like a relationship can like surround eating and food, and like you go, like when you spend time with your family, typically it's like, okay, what are you going to spend time with your family doing? Usually it's like, oh, we're gonna all have dinner together, and then we're gonna have dessert, and everyone brings a plate with you, and then or like like when you're in a relationship, like what do you do for a date night? It's typically, I don't want to speak for everyone, but like most people aren't like having a date like going for a run and then like eating grass afterwards, you know? Like most people are like, let's fucking slam some Cheesecake Factory and then take a cheesecake to go and then eat that like naked in bed or whatever.
I like the way you think.
Like, you know, I think people don't realize like how much food plays a role in your relationships with people, like both romantically and like platonically. Like you just don't realize until that's no longer an option anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So once I found that out, I was like, you know what? People already know. And obviously the people that she had told were unfortunately some of the bigger mouths that I know. So I know that they had already talked about it to other people. So I'm like, fuck it. There's literally, people are going to know either way. So you either come clean yourself or you continue to look like a liar and have people think poorly about you for that also. So I just started telling people. And I remember the very first time I was at a board meeting for a nonprofit that I was on the board for. And some of the women there were, you know, older. They were in their 50s or so, 50s or 60s, and some of them were heavy. I remember one of them said, oh, you look so different. You've lost it. You know, you're still losing some weight. That's so good. And I said, yeah, I had weight loss surgery 2016. It was like you could hear a pin drop in the room because I had told this group of people multiple times what I was doing and whatever. And they're like, oh, you did? And I said, yeah, you know, I wasn't ready to talk about it, but I think I'm ready now. And that was it. And that was a turning point. And ever since then, I bring it up and I just tell people. And when I'm at a bar and a stranger wants to buy me a shot, I say no thank you because I know that I can't handle it now. When they try to call me a pussy for it or whatever, I say no, it's actually, you know, I physically can't. That's, you know, that'll take me a while to get that down. And, and unfortunately, it doesn't taste the greatest to me. So
you are stronger than I.
Give me a crown apple. We can talk.
Yeah. I need to learn how to say no. Anyways.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. There's been a lot of up and downs. And like I said, I'm still learning. I'm still doing things different day by day. And, emotionally, physically, socially, a lot of that stuff is still an ongoing struggle. That's why my name is so appropriate on Instagram, TheVsgStruggle, because it's not all a cakewalk and it's not all just about food and nutrition and working out. There's a lot of other things that come into play with this stuff that, quite frankly, I wish that my doctor would have warned me about, because not only did the doctor not tell me about some of this stuff, you have a lot of people have to get the psych doctors okay to make sure that you can mentally handle it. Mm-hmm. And that was what my insurance company required. And they also gave me the okay. The questions they asked me were not a big deal. And some of them don't warn enough people about the other stuff that can affect your life. So anytime someone comes to me, either who's had surgery or is thinking about it in real life, or even anybody who messages me online, like when I drop a truth bomb in my Instagram story or something like that, and someone messages me out of the blue who, you know, maybe I'm not following or whatever, and they're like asking me a bunch of really random questions, I forget, I guess, how much progress I've made with this whole thing. And because I try not to compare myself to other people but online, but I realize that I'm just in a different path, different time, and I have a different goal in mind that when some people do. So I just share my story and hope that it helps with other people in person or online. See where it goes.
I mean, I'm sure you talking about, you know, what you've been going through is going to help somebody on, like, if they listen to this, you know, because not everybody has.
You never know who's listening and who's watching and who's reading. So
I know, obviously, like, regret is a strong word, but like, do you like, as you reflect on, like your journey of having surgery and then like post surgery, do you like wish you had handled it any differently, or are you like I don't know, like you're open about it now, or do you think that you had to go through what you went through after surgery in order to get to the place you are now?
I think that the thing that I regret the most is probably that I didn't tell people sooner. And that's probably at this point of this, if anybody who's out there has listened this long, it probably sounds fairly cliche, but it's true, because I really carried that a while, and I really didn't like that I was lying to some of the people closest to me. And I felt, and even though I wasn't, because I was watching what I was eating, I was getting my steps in, I was doing the keto thing for a while, even though those weren't lies, they weren't the whole truth. And I didn't think about how much that would hurt me. Especially because we're talking about my parents, my brother, my best friends. So, other people I can handle not being 100% truthful to, but those are people who I will attest that I don't ever lie to, and I'm 100% honest with them about anything. And that particular thing I wasn't. So I wish I would have told them sooner, because everybody I've told since then has been very cool about it, very supportive about it. And I realized that I really didn't to be afraid of. And like you said earlier, people need to make that decision for themselves. Everybody has a reason for wanting to hide it or wanting to share or whatever. I just say to any of those people who are thinking about not telling anybody, just consider how it'll make you feel, because you are having surgery because you want to feel better. And you want to feel better, not only physically, but emotionally too. And that can be a heavy weight sometimes, depending on, your social life. Some people are loners, and some people like keeping to themselves and whatever. But if you're as social of a person as I am, just make sure you put a lot of thought into it and that you're confident with that decision. So I think that's the only thing I really regret.
You just dropped like a truth bomb.
I know.
Like, holy shit. You're having the surgery to feel better. Like, is keeping it to yourself going to help you feel better also?
Yeah.
And I think, I appreciate you sharing so much, because, I think the biggest personalities on Instagram are people who are like overwhelmingly open about their choice to have surgery. Like, at least in the VSG weight loss surgery community,
right.
Like people who are like the biggest personalities are people who just like are never questioned their decision to like tell everyone, So like,
right.
I appreciate you sharing your story, just because, not everyone feels comfortable or is in a social circle or has a family that they are going to like feel comfortable sharing like this intimate decision, this intimate medical decision. So right. I appreciate you sharing your story so much.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's it is what it is. It's a story, and it's just one of millions that are out there. So
yeah, I as a host, I can relate to a lot of what you've been saying, because I was also kind of secretive, but not like to certain people. Question for you though.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell your past self, if you could, before you started your journey, or anybody that's thinking of starting this whole sort of weight loss journey?
What would I tell myself before I had it, or
yeah,
so
like the you that went to the meeting that realized this might not be for me because that lady has a Mountain Dew in here.
I think that I would tell that person, that particular person,
putting you on the spot.
What? Yeah, I guess. I would just say, not to be so afraid, because the story that I told you, I was comparing myself to the people in that room. Mm-hmm. I wasn't living my life for me. I wasn't doing it, thinking about just my own story. I was thinking about everybody else in that room. And so I felt like I didn't belong in there. And so I would say just to worry about yourself. And that's what I have to tell myself on a regular basis. When I post on, when someone I'm following on Instagram posts something and they've got, 70,000, 100,000 followers on there, and I know that my comment's just going to get lost in a sea of heart eyes and flame emojis. I'm just like, whatever. It kind of sucks because sometimes I would like to have that camaraderie with that person, and so then eventually shift to be just like everybody else, and I'll a bunch of flame emojis with the eyes looking sideways and the wink faces and all that stuff, just like everybody else. But I compare myself to other people, and I always, whether it's at work or whether it's in my social life or on Instagram, and so I always try to remind myself, just do your own thing, just be you, just do for you. You're doing the surgery for you. No one else is living your life. And so that's probably something that I would tell the version of me sitting in that room, an eye shot of that 2-liter Mountain Dew. Now
bring a diet Mountain Dew for the lady.
I know they make diet, at least act like you're trying, like you said. If I was going back farther than that to talk to a younger version of me, I would say probably, boy, you're on your way to football practice on your bike. You don't need to be eating a Go-Gurt. It's going to be hot. And I make that joke because, I was heavy. I would emotionally eat, and I would eat sometimes at the wrong times to eat certain things. So on an 80 to 90 degree day at 7:30 in the morning, I'm riding my bike to football practice, eating 2 Go-Gurts. And at the time, they weren't even decent. They were like the early on Go-Gurts that were more like melted crayons than anything.
Yeah.
And I felt like that. Yeah, I felt like that was a really good 2000s at that point.
Early 2000s, excuse me.
Early 2000s. I felt like that was a really good idea. Realized shortly after, about an hour later, it was not a good thing to eat on such a hot day when I started doing calisthenics. And that Go-Gurt came out, and I regretted it. But
oh man,
I only use that as an example because I would eat my feelings a lot, and I wish that I wouldn't have. I wish I would have found a more constructive way to spend my time, but
I relate to young you so much.
Edwin, were you I have a very important question. Well, actually I have 2 very important, or maybe 3. First of all, where do you get these pictures of nasty ass food combinations that you post on Instagram?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you about this cookbook that I've got, because then you'll go get the cookbook and then you'll start making this stuff.
Okay. Because I keep seeing these. I'm like, where the fuck does this guy get these pictures?
Yeah, what are you talking about? These are appetizing twists on the things that we know and love.
Oh, so it's a cookbook, and you make these meals for yourself.
The boiled pizza. Let me tell you. There's nothing worse. Okay, so pizza. I always say that to my friends, and usually when I've been drinking, that pizza is like titties. It's good when it's hot, and it's good when it's not. So, yes. So
I mean, I don't understand the visual appeal of boobs, but I can like go to a strip club and like appreciate,
Yeah.
And it's like pizza. Like I fucking love pizza.
Listen, everybody loves boobs, okay? Like everybody loves boobs.
Yes. So
I don't.
The only thing bad about pizza is when we're eating pizza, and let's say I go get a Little Caesars because I'm breaking down and I'm not as strong as I think I am. I can't finish a Little Caesars pizza in an hour like I used to be able to. It's going to sit in there for a solid week. I can eat a piece at a time or whatever. But by the tail end of those few days, it starts to get dried out from being in the fridge. So you just drop that sucker in a boiling pot of water, sucks that moisture right up, and boom, you've got a fresh Little Caesars piece of pizza on your hands.
Gross.
So for those who are following Edwin, the VSgStruggle on Instagram, he posts nasty, maybe my perception is that these combinations are disgusting. Like some of them are like SpaghettiOs in a hot dog roll, or like, hold on, let me try and find it. Just ridiculous boiled pizza. Like, okay, you're from Buffalo.
Boiled Pop-Tart too. That was a good one.
But like, bro, what is this? Oh, shrimp with barbecue and American cheese on a hot dog.
Yes.
That sounds like class
the way I just said
right there. Okay.
The way I just said hot dog is very New York, northern, western New York of me.
I told you your accent is coming
hot
out.
dog.
There's nothing more American than American cheese on a ballpark crank with freaking shrimp on it.
And buffalo sauce.
Buffalo.
Oh, good God. Anyways.
That's
wait.
Western New York, baby.
Okay, speaking of Western New York, so that was my first question. Second question, are you a fan of Wegmans Deli?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got a Wegmans in my town. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Wegmans Deli.
Oh, good. So the guy that you hated from work, he probably is a top shopper. Am I right?
He's more of the like, I'm going to pretend like I go to Trader Joe's, even though the closest one's 2 hours away, and I don't believe it for a second. He's that type.
Oh, what a piece of shit. And he probably shop. No shade at Tops, but a little shade at Tops,
Right.
I'm trying to speak the Western New York lingo, show my credit.
Just full discretion, I have no idea what they're saying right now, so.
Everyone's reference, I lived in the Buffalo area for a year, so like
So like you're from there.
For anyone listening to this and is hearing this Wegmans Tops banter, and you know what we're talking about, I will go on record and say I don't believe for a second that anyone has won a car on Tops Monopoly pieces.
Facts.
No, they're truth bombs.
Yeah,
Take that, file it, put it in a safe deposit box at a bank, because you're going to want to keep that sucker for the future.
But this is a side note. If anyone ever finds a Wegmans, get a deli sandwich, like a sub, as we call them. Get the everything but the bagel roll. Oh, I used to fuck that shit up.
And the Danny's favorite on the inside. That's my jam.
I haven't had it in a while. Just bread,
It's funny that you mentioned deli, because when I would go to Wegmans when I was heavier, I would go to the cold bar, the hot bar, or whatever, and I would easily fill up a container or two of shit from their bar. I mean, their wings, chicken fingers, cheese sticks, pizza logs, and then all kinds of pastas and all kinds of things, especially if you get it around lunchtime. Now, so, I'd walk out spending more than I probably would have if I had gone to McDonald's or whatever and got a meal.
For context here, Wegmans has like a pay by the pound buffet area thing, and it's a grocery store. Wegmans is a grocery store, but it's so much more than a grocery. Anyways. Yeah,
and so you go and a whole bar, hot and cold bar of stuff, and you just load it into these containers, and then they weigh it, and then you got to pay whatever's in there. So I would pay
for the shame.
Yeah, you pay for the shame. Yeah. I would easily go in there and have a $15 to $20 meal when I could have probably spent less at a fast food place. But because it was at Wegmans, I thought it was healthier. And so now I can go in there and I get the small container and I put a few pieces of chicken in there and maybe some vegetables if I can, if I feel like I can fit it. And then go, and it's $2. It's so much cheaper. It's so much cheaper, and I love it. And it makes it so much better, because then I'm not like spending a ton of money on the Wegmans cold and hot bar, because I probably could have paid a mortgage a month or two on that.
Man, fuck!
This is making me want to go to Publix, even though I know you guys aren't talking about Publix. It's making me want to pub sub.
You know what? You know what I just thought of? To go back to what you said before about what would you tell the person sitting in that room next to the lady with the Mountain Dew? Is I would also tell that person, because I went into that meeting and I still, that 6 months, thought in my head, I'm never going to be able to eat anything good again. I'm never going to be able to eat good food again, because I thought for sure it was just going to be raw, not raw, but like plain cooked chicken and protein bars and protein shakes the rest of my life, just because of what's on that sheet. I realize now you know, I can make do. I can move things around a little bit. And that I was just going to need to change my relationship to food, not how much or what I consumed of it, or, you know, a little mix of both, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to need to change it. It was not going to go away forever. So I can still go to Wegmans. I can still eat certain things. I just can't eat a lot of it. And I have to do it in moderation, because I think, as my boy Andre had mentioned online at one point or another, or I don't know if it was him, it was another, but just because, you know, whether you build your house with a hammer or a drill, the maintenance is the same. I think we've all seen that in this community at one point or another. That's what I would kind of just go back to, is that you can have these things. You just have to be mindful of how much of it you're consuming. So,
yeah. The way one of my friends, Alex, she likes to say is like, her Instagram handle is 206VSG, I think. But the way she explained it to me one time, because I was feeling bad about like indulging over a weekend, and she's like, you can pack a bag and visit, you just can't unpack and live there. And so, isn't that like that.
It's really
good. Like, it's so good. We should have her on. She'll drop some knowledge on us. But yeah, that's, I think, you know, you think that you're never going to be able to eat Wegmans or whatever again, but the truth is, like, you can eat whatever the fuck you want, but like, you need to, like you said, change your relationship with food.
Yeah.
Carrie,
and
sorry.
What? No, go ahead. Do you have more? You said you had 3.
I have one more question.
I don't know what it is, so.
This is and then you do. This is a question I ask almost everyone. What was your Taco Bell order? If you say that you didn't like Taco Bell, get the fuck out.
These are hard-hitting questions we have, okay? Hard-hitting.
All right. So first, I like Taco Bell, but we don't have one in my town.
Oh, wait.
So,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
no, what's a taco place?
I apologize. I really do apologize. Like,
they're in Western New York, and I would go to them. But if I were to pick a taco-related fast food place, I would pick Mighty Taco from Buffalo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that Mighty Taco was a thing.
Yeah, and I would 100% get the old me would get 3. And for any of you who are in Western New York or have been through Buffalo and you've been to Mighty Taco, I would get 3 Super Mighties. And for any of you who don't know, a Super Mighty is a burrito the size of a brick, and I would put all 3 of them in my body at the time.
Ooh, nice.
Nice. That's impressive, honestly.
I don't shame that, because I would probably do the same.
So now, if I were to get a Super Mighty, I got to peel it back, cut from the side, and eat the insides first, so I don't fill up with the shell.
Boil it.
And then freeze it and boil it later.
What? Oh man, yeah. I remember like one of the first like make do meals I had after surgery was like scraping the meat out of a taco from like Taco Bell or something. And I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. That's amazing.
What fast food place did you frequent though?
Beforehand?
Yeah.
I think I would go to Tim Hortons a lot, because that's like our local Western New York area coffee/sandwich place. It's sort
also
of like
Canadian.
I know.
Yeah, it's like
Canadian.
It's like Dunkin' Donuts, but for people in Canada and Western New York, basically. But
it's really fucking good.
Yeah, I would go there quite a bit, and I would also go to I'm a big proponent of supporting local, though, so I would more than likely go to local restaurants to overeat than I would fast food places to overeat. So I would go to, I like to support local with my binge eating habits.
Yeah, supporting your local economies.
Yes, exactly. So I just want to say, I think that it's hilarious that my weird food posts have come up in this conversation.
Well, I'm like, if someone looks up your page, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I do things you don't see every day. And,
yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you about that, but
I guess I'm gonna try and boil pizza now. I mean, I gotta do it.
Yeah,
for
why
science.
not? What do you have to, honestly? So,
my dignity. I have my dignity as a former fatty to lose. That's what I have.
You're still going to be able to eat it. It's still going to be able to eat it.
Yeah. I guess.
Like I said, pizza's pizza. You'll never look at a pizza again without thinking about my analogy of pizzas. Promise you.
Damn you.
I still have people who when did this happen? I want to say around Thanksgiving. Yeah, because isn't that the big go out day, the day before Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
And so I was out downtown, and I had, at least around here it is, where everybody, families are in town. And
yeah, I think it's like the second biggest drinking holiday behind New Year's Eve.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I was out, and I had a guy I used to work with in 2008 to 2012 at one of my first jobs, ran into me, and we were talking about different things, and he goes, you know what I remember about you? The sick shit that used to come out of your mouth. And I was like, oh yeah, like what? And the two things he said was that, with my analogy and how I refer to pizza, and then another one that I think is too graphic to say on a podcast. But I was just dying because that's the impression I left on this guy, who at the time he was a high schooler, but now he's and so I was like, oh my God, sorry. I'm so sorry for if that's what I left you with, but I promise you I'm better than that.
You're better than that? You're talking about boiling pizza. This is like really upsetting me. Okay.
Well,
let me ask you this. Have you ever boiled a piece of pizza before?
No.
Then don't knock it until you try it.
I don't even. You know what? I don't believe anything that you're saying right now. I don't think you know what else? I don't even think you've tried it.
That's well, we'll see.
But he can't knock it until he tries it.
Yeah, exactly. I can't talk bad about it.
He's supporting the pizza boilers in the world,
Yeah, like revolutionary stuff. When people first heard about Amazon, I think everyone was like, "Ooh, I want to buy something from nobody." No, people went ahead and did it anyway. And now look at Amazon now. You could be boiling pizza and be missing out on, 3-4 extra meals from that dried out Little Caesars pizza in your fridge.
Oh God.
Well, on that note, Edwin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Oh,
the name of this episode is going to be Boiling Pizza with the VSG Struggle.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. You're truly thick, even though you talk about boiling pizza, but we're going to let it pass this time.
All right. Fine.
Yeah. Ellie, why don't you just close us out?
Thank you both for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you
so much. You for taking time out of your day to talk to us silly gooses. So thank you everybody for listening. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/thickthoughts. We have extra episodes and a bunch of other fun stuff for everybody in there. If you would like, you could follow us on our Instagram, and all of our social medias is just Thick Thoughts. We're literally on every sort of platform possible out there. Just look up Thick Thoughts and we'll be there. You know what I mean? It's a fun time.
And follow the VSG Struggle for weird food combinations and boiling pizza and stuff like. But I joke, but like really.
And also,
thank you for joining.
And also, just rate and review us on iTunes or anywhere where you're listening. It really, really, really does help us and helps us, pop up when people look up certain things on the old search bar there. So thank you so much, Edwin, once again.
Thank you. It's been fun.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Bye.
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 And now it's the time of the show when we thank our wonderful, beautiful, thick thought patrons. We're going to start off today with Michelle Robbins. thank you for being the bird is the word. I don't know. Sarah's really much better at this. I apologize, guys. Lorena Rodriguez, why don't you invite me out to dinner sometime, huh? How about that? Tom Cruise Mom Shoes, best name in the game, with a Sharina Henshaw. How about you show me some of your super cool dance moves? How about that? And with that, thank you guys so very much for being patrons. You guys are the thickest of thoughts.